This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
What is up, guys? Super excited today. I've got an amazing guest. We're going to be talking to real estate professionals, but it's more than real estate. If you own a business, especially now with everything that's going on in COVID, and he's going to talk about this, it is now more than ever important that you're doing digital marketing. So maybe you're a small business, maybe you're a real estate professional, and there's one or two or three of you. This is going to be a show for you. We're going to get real practical. He's going to do a lot of teaching on digital marketing. So I think this is going to be a huge help. Alex, how are you doing today?
Jason, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. And happy Tuesday to you and all your fans.
So Alex, can you give us a little bit of background? I'm looking at your website right now, and it's digitalresultsmarketingagency.com. BSM Vault. Is that your website?
Yeah, the company that I founded and run is BSM Vault. BSM stands for Business, Sales, and Marketing. It was a dream of mine for years when I was in the mortgage business to eventually have my own agency. And you keep a dream tight and you go after it. You don't give up. Dreams do come true.
Now, when you were especially when you were looking at mortgage, because I read some of your story and you kind of started out, you were really open about it, like you had gotten fired from a job before.
Yeah, I've gotten fired from many jobs, but I guess that's kind of how you learn. You kind of learn the hard way. So I'm born and raised originally from Chicago, and I'm first generation Greek. My parents are immigrants. They were born in Greece. They didn't even speak the language when they came to Chicago. And I just had jobs. I just had family jobs growing up. My parents were in restaurants and fruit markets. My mom was in the beauty salon industry. My uncles had dry cleaners and restaurants. So I was always around the family business. But I had to leave Chicago and kind of venture off west, which I did. I went to San Diego. And that's kind of how I started in the mortgage business. And I started off as a telemarketer, literally from the ground floor. And the first job I had after being a telemarketer for about 8 months was as a loan officer for a mortgage company. And I got fired because I didn't hit my quota. You had to close at least 8 loans a month for 3 months straight, which was 24 loans. And I did not hit the quota, so I got fired. But that was a blessing. That was a blessing in disguise because that allowed me to be my first mentor shortly thereafter. And that, put me on the track to having a 16-year run in the mortgage business.
So, I mean, like coming from Chicago and then seeing your family and being around like an entrepreneurial spirit, did you have that when you were young?
I did. I got that from my parents. I mean, they never worked for anyone their entire career working. They always worked for themselves. They were self-employed. They were entrepreneurs before that word was popular like it is today. And I saw them just build their businesses from the ground up. Literally, my dad, with his hands, he was a professional soccer player in Greece, came to Chicago to try to, play more soccer, but soccer wasn't as big, and still today is not as big as it is around the world. So when he knew he couldn't make a living playing soccer in Chicago, his first gig, this is a funny story because I remember this vividly growing up, his first gig was getting those hot dog stands. And he went to the financial district in Chicago. He was 18, 19, 20 years old at the time. And he went to the financial district and he started putting hot dog stands in different corners of busy sections of Chicago in the Loop and different areas. And his players would have different hot dog stands. At the end of the day, they would sell out all their hot dogs. And he had a trick. He used almost 99%, 100% pure beef, very little processing, and his competitors used a lot of processing and less beef. So he got more repeat clients. And literally my mom would tell me stories that they were sick and tired of counting money because they didn't have those bill counters back then. And that's kind of how he started. And he built his first building. He built a dry cleaners. He bought the building cash, all through hard work, and built his first business, which was a dry cleaners business. And then that kind of parlayed and escalated into, fruit markets and restaurants and other ventures. But yeah, I learned firsthand the art and science of just working hard and just never giving up. That's just how it is with immigrants. They just don't give up. They see opportunity here, whereas people who are born here, not everybody, but people who are born here kind of take it for granted. They don't, because they come from nothing, you know? So yeah, I learned it from them. I was blessed to have the entrepreneurial blood and spirit inside me. And I'm very grateful for it.
So whenever you started, because you said telemarketing, and I'm thinking about that, and everybody, I know we've all had those type of jobs or sales jobs. What are some of the things that do you think in that beginning that caused you to get fired from it?
Well, I didn't get fired from the telemarketing job. I got fired from being a loan officer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after I became a telemarketing, but I learned so much from being a telemarketer. I mean, today I could look back and say it was the best training I ever got. Back then, I hated it because, back then, we're talking, 18, 20 years ago now, there was no laws or regulations like there is today. You could pretty much call anybody you want. It was like the Wild Wild West. And we were literally making 500 calls per day off
Wow.
off of a predictive dialer headset. You just press a couple buttons and it goes to the next call per day, 6 days a week. So at the time, I was like, this is horrible, because 90% of the calls were hangups, get a life, get a job, F you, but 10% were not. 10% were people that stayed on the call after the first question, and then you asked the second question. And those ended up being leads that we would give the other division of this company, which was the loan officer, opportunities to get refis. This was during a refinance kind of market, kind of like what we have now, but it was a little bit different back then. So what I learned from being a telemarketer, which I take with me today, every day, and I teach to my team, and when I was in the mortgage business, it was a great asset for me, is just not giving up. Objections, they're not objecting me, they're objecting the offer, and just building resilience, and being able to make calls. And this helped me when I became an LO, and I had a good run as being a loan officer, because I had to go after real estate professionals, I had to go after builders and business people and make calls. And you get a lot of objections, you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of rejections, you get a lot of just like, wow, this is not working out. And as long as you don't give up, that's what I learned. As long as you don't give up, you cannot fail. It might take you a while to get to where you want to go, but as long as you give up and you learn from your mistakes and you just keep getting up and keep going, you just will not fail. It's impossible.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you look at your dad's tenacity, and obviously you learn that from him, and then you look at these 500 phone calls a day, and you look, and I look at real estate agents now, salespeople now, and I see them making 10, 15 phone calls a day, half-heartedly treating a lead like it's not that important, and then they sit there and have a bad attitude for Zillow or whatever. What are some of the things that you've learned, especially in that beginning time before we get into the digital marketing side of things? What are some of the things that you learned in sales, that people aren't doing nowadays that you're seeing, especially on the real estate side?
Yeah, I mean, both sides. I work with a lot of real estate professionals and mortgage professionals. So it's not just real estate professionals here that do a bad job of following up. And I agree with you. They do a bad job of following up, but some mortgage professionals, they do a bad job as well. And I think the first thing is it's all mindset first off, right? If your headspace is not properly set up, you're going to have a rough time, whether it's 10 calls or 100 calls a day, no matter what. So step number one is, you got to get your headspace right. You got to get your mindset right. You have to have some kind of drive. Right now I'm older, I'm married, I have a family, I have a business. So my why, it's very easy for me to get up in the morning. I get up at 4:30 every day. I have a morning routine. And it's only because, and it's not easy. Let me take that back. It's not easy because it's hard to get up at 4:30 when it's dark and your bed's nice and warm. But the only reason I do it every single day is because my why. My why is to protect and provide for my family and become the best version of myself. So that drives me to be able to do things that I normally would not do. So back in those days, I was forced to make those calls. I was getting paid almost, and this is a lot, almost $300 a full week of telemarketing, living in San Diego. And San Diego was expensive back then. It's more expensive today, but it was definitely expensive back then for somebody like myself who comes from the Midwest. So for me, my why at that time was to get the bonus checks, because they would pay you cash if you got a certain amount of applications that were real applications that the LO could call on. So in addition to making the $300 a week, which was crazy little money back then, I was going for the bonus. So I knew I had to make more dials than anybody else to be able to have more opportunities to talk to people, to have more opportunities to see if somebody would stay on the phone with me for an extra 5 seconds to hear my pitch, to eventually have an opportunity to get an application that would go to the LO that would give me a bonus so I could eat. So my why was just feeding myself and making sure that I could pay my bills so I could live another month at the apartment that I was living in while I was figuring out what the heck I was going to do with my life in San Diego. So the why is the most important thing, in my opinion, Jason. When you got the why dialed in, and that could be the driving force for you consciously when you're up doing what you're doing, and then subconsciously, more importantly, to drive your feet while you're sleeping. So when you wake up, you just get going. That helps a lot. And I think a lot of people don't have a why dialed in. I know it sounds a little out there, but the reality is once you got the why dialed in, everything else can over time fall into place, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of people look at their life and they're just being reactive, and they're not, they haven't took the time to be self-aware enough to look and figure out the exact why, whether it's just trying to survive, like you had said in San Diego, or it's now, you have a family and providing and protecting them. So you went from telemarketing to, obviously you were seeing these loan officers, and were they in the same building? What influenced you to try to become a loan officer?
Well, they weren't in the same building. They were in the same building, but we were separated in two sections. This building was divided actually into three sections. One section was a telemarketing division. There was about 40 dialers. Another section of the building, which was separate, was the loan officer division. There was about 40 loan officers. And then there was another section that was separate. That was the ops division, like processing, underwriting, that actually fulfilled the loans. What inspired me was most of the loan officers drove really nice cars.
Yes.
They dressed really well. So I knew they were making way more than $300 a week, right? So I knew the step up from a telemarketer was, in their case, was a junior LO, then an LO. So I knew that was the next step for me. And the telemarketing division, you don't have people that stay being a telemarketing for more than like 8-9 months. Very rarely get anybody that makes it past 8 months, because at that point they're way beyond burned out. And hopefully by then they've kind of stepped up, and gone into the next stage of their career. Not that you can't have a career being a telemarketer, don't get it wrong, but the way this company was set up, they didn't pay well. So you probably wanted to get out of that position as fast as possible. So my driving force was, I got to get to the next step, because the next step means I could make more money, which means more things could happen after that. It didn't work out that way, but again, it's a blessing in disguise, because after I got fired, I literally met my first mentor in the mortgage business that took me under his wing, and I had a nice 4-year run with him, and that paved the way for pretty much my entire career. What he taught me about not only business but life, and I still consider him a very close personal friend of mine. So everything happens for a reason, right? Every breakdown, there's usually a breakthrough that comes from it. It's just you got to find it and go after it, and that was definitely a breakthrough for me, because when I got fired, I was devastated. Right. I had no money in the bank. That $300 was everything to me. And I wasn't used to getting fired, because like I said, in Chicago, I worked for family businesses. I just moved from one business to another. But then when I went off on my own in San Diego, that was a hard one for me to swallow. But, I took it like a champ, and within a couple of days recovered. Next week, I was with my mentor, and that was the beginning of another journey.
How important is it to have a mentor?
Oh man, we could have a whole podcast just on mentorship. I would say it's very important. I could identify and pinpoint 4 mentors, in addition to my father being a role model for me, 4 mentors in my life that literally have paved the path for me in the last 20 years, from the first one that I just told you, and 3 more thereafter. And if it wasn't for them, I give them all the credit. Obviously, I put in the work, but if I didn't have their guidance and their perspective, because a mentor or somebody who counsels you or gives you input, advice and counsel is very different, right? You could get advice from a family member, a friend, but counsel is very different. It comes from a different perspective, a very neutral perspective. When you get counsel from somebody, from like a mentor, where you could see something that you definitely cannot see and forecast what you cannot forecast, as long as you have faith and trust the information that where it's coming from, and you take action, it's unreal. It changes everything. The whole game changes. Like for me, literally those 4 mentors in my life are a big reason why the last 20 years, and I'm not saying I've had successes all through my last 20 years. I have not. I've had a lot of failures, but those mentors have allowed me to realize what I could learn from those failures and grow and improve on. So to answer your question, if you could find a mentor or be blessed and have mentors in your life, it's a game changer. Game changer.
Now, did they just kind of, did you get lucky and they popped in your life, or was the luck generated from the hard work and they saw you working hard? I mean, how did you attract? Because I think that's the question I always get from people. They're like, I want a mentor, but how do I find one, or how do I attract one?
That's a great question, by the way. It's a combination of both. I would say the first mentor I had was luck. As soon as I got fired, I left the building, obviously, and I went on my way. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And then at the time, she was a good friend of mine. Now she's my wife. She's been with me now 19 years this year. Calls me and says, hey, where are we going to meet up for lunch? And I said, we're not going to meet up for lunch today. I got some bad news. I got fired. And she's always had a great attitude and great spirits. And she's like, everything happens for a reason. Don't worry about it. Why don't you just take a cruise and go hang out and go to the ocean? We're living in San Diego at the time. So she's like, go to Mission Beach and go hang out at the ocean, and I'll catch up with you later. I'm like, sounds like a plan. An hour later, she calls again. She's like, where are you at? And I'm like, you told me to go to the ocean. I'm at the ocean. I'm just hanging out. And she's like, well, I need you to get in your car, and I need you to go meet somebody like ASAP. And I'm like right now? She goes, right now he's waiting for you at this diner where we used to live in this area. And I'm like, okay, what's this about? She goes, don't worry about it, just head over there. And I said, okay, who am I meeting? She tells me who I'm meeting. I head over there. This becomes the gentleman. We had a 4-hour lunch. This becomes the gentleman that ends up being my mentor for the next 4 years. What happened, here's the luck part. What happened is my wife now, back then friend, worked in the processing department with a bunch of girls. And one of her friends overheard the conversation of me getting fired and knows me and says, oh, Alex got fired. That's okay. Do you want me to set him up? I have a really good friend of mine who just relocated from Arizona to San Diego and just opened up a brokerage, and is looking for some good people he could groom. Do you think Alex would be open for it? And she's like, absolutely. He has no other options. Let's do it. That's the luck part, right? This guy came into my life completely out of nowhere. He wasn't even in San Diego when I moved there, relocated from Arizona, opens up a brokerage, is looking for some people he could groom. I get fired. Within a couple hours, I'm having lunch with the guy, and I spend the next 4 years with him, right? So that's the luck part. The other three were not luck in the sense like this one was. The other three was I was searching for more because I always wanted to grow as a person, become better in my craft. So when you're searching and you put that out there, with your thoughts, that's why writing down goals and having a vision, people have been telling me that stuff for years. You read it in all these good books, but when you apply it, that's the problem with a lot of people that they have. All of us at some point have read a lot of books, but did not apply it. Once you start applying what you read, the application of the knowledge is way more important than the knowledge by itself. Once you start applying what you read, things just start moving. So I started applying what I was learning, and I would always read. I love reading. I would always read from a young age. I was the guy before I became a teenager in an adult life and got into the night scene. I was the guy that on Fridays would be at Barnes and Noble for hours. That's what made me happy. Just to sit at Barnes and Noble with like 20 books and just go through them and just spend 4 or 5 hours there. Literally, that was me. And one day I'm in San Diego and I'm reading this book on sales mastery, and the author, his number and his website are on the back, and it was a fantastic book. I read it in like 2 hours. And I'm searching. I had a gap in my business. It was the efficiency gap. I wanted to be more efficient. I wanted to have more structure, more systems. So I'm searching. I read this book. I reach out to the editor, the author of the book, he calls me the next day. He becomes my mentor. I have about a 4-year run with him. And then I'm searching again after the meltdown, 2007, 2008, 2009. We all got crushed. If you were in mortgage and real estate at the time and you survived it, you understand. We got crushed. And very few people survived. 80% of my colleagues and friends, if not more of them, left the business, the mortgage side, real estate side. I fought through it. I'm searching again. I have to reinvent myself. I'm a loan officer that only did refis. That market is gone. I have to become a purchase LO. I don't know what that means. So I'm searching. My next mentor comes in my life, right? Now I'm searching. I know what I want. And then the same thing happened with my fourth one. After I'm in the mortgage business for how many years? I'm like, oh man, I got this entrepreneurial blood in me. I got my dad in me, my parents. I want to get out of the mortgage business. It's too corporate for me. They put handcuffs on me. I'm a marketer. I'm searching. My other mentor comes into my life. And that's the one that pushed me to get out of the mortgage business and open up my own company, BSM Vault. So anyways, combination of luck, plus knowing what you want, putting it out there and letting the universe kind of work its magic. We don't know how it works, but we know it works, right? Just like gravity, right? We don't know really how it works, but it works. Same thing with that. If you can put it out there like a boomerang, typically it comes back. You just got to have faith and just be patient.
No, I love that. And through the whole process, it's like you're creating this energy that attracts this person into your life, this mentor. You're not just like sitting at home, wishing you had a mentor and creating this negative attitude. You have this really positive attitude. You're working really hard. And then, it's amazing when you create that combination, what things can happen and how, luck or circumstance. I mean, I even remember your first mentor. Obviously, you had to be nice to those girls that were in the office for them to think you were nice enough. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we think it's luck, but really it's our actions that daily of what we've done. I want to kind of fast forward and spend the rest of this time, if we could, Alex, on BSM Vault. Now, what caused you to be able to want to say, I know because of your dad and entrepreneurship, but it's like, I want to help mortgage and real estate professionals, and how can I help them market? When did that transition come from saying, okay, I'm doing successful in real estate to I love marketing?
Great question. Well, it all started actually in 2012, right? In 2012, at that time, I was a producing branch manager for a mortgage company. It was my first time becoming a branch manager. So before that, I'm 10 years in the business, right? I started in 2002 as a telemarketer. Fast forward 10 years is 2012. All I know was loans, right? I'm a mortgage professional. And it's my first time where I break off being a loan officer. And now I have an opportunity to run a branch, a physical brick and mortar branch in San Diego, do loans and build a branch at the same time. It was a great opportunity for me. I took it. That was, for me, the catalyst. That was the pivotal moment, not only in my business, but my life, where I learned a new way to get to the consumer. So for me, before that, after the refi boom, as a loan officer, the main source of my business came from building relationships with realtors, right? Because real estate professionals are talking to a lot of people that are potentially trying to buy a house that need to be pre-approved. Very rarely do you get people that pay all cash. I mean, a lot of people obviously pay all cash for properties, but I think 95% of the transactions have a loan connected to it, right? So they need a loan officer, whether it's at a bank or a credit union or a broker or whatnot. So my entire career after the refi boom, I'm chasing realtors. I'm building relationships with realtors. I'm building relationships with builders and business people. And that's just how I kind of knew how to run my business. I didn't know any other way. Plus, I had my database, right? 2012 comes, I'm a producing branch manager for this company. This company says, we're going to bypass the realtor and we're going to go straight to the consumer. My mentor at the time says there's riches in the niches. And whoever's listening, please write that down. It's not just a phrase. There are riches in the niches, right? My coach in Australia calls it niche. And then I call it niche, and he makes fun of me, and I make fun of him. Anyways, so there's riches in the niches, she says. You're only going to focus on veterans and active military families in San Diego, Virginia Beach, and Hawaii. You're only going to focus on one loan, the VA loan, and we're going to go straight to the consumer. We're going to bypass the realtor. We're going to pre-approve the consumer, and then we're going to give the pre-approved client to the realtor of your choice. Now, at that time, I was like, what is this? I never heard of this model. Like, is this even a doable model? I was coming from the background of you got to build relationships with realtors. And she goes, there's nothing wrong with you having relationships with realtors. Just understand the asset that everybody wants is the pre-approved client. Let's just go straight to the source. And I'm like, I'm in. What do we need to do? So they showed me behind the curtains of how they incorporated social media, digital marketing, call centers, technology, automation to make this a reality. And that was literally the seed that planted, without me even knowing it, to where 5 years later, maybe 20 mastermind groups later, a lot of my own personal money joining coaching groups and mastermind groups, pay to play groups to learn more as much as I can about that. I had enough skills and confidence in myself. I had enough realtors ask me to market for them, where that was where I pivoted and left the mortgage business and opened up BSM Vault. So I learned how to use social media and digital marketing the right way to get to the consumer. And then throughout that 5-year history, I also learned that a lot of people did not have a clue how to use social media and digital marketing the right way. So I knew there was a gap there. There was a need. There was a demand. And then my last mentor, who is the one that pushed me out, said, hey, you have enough skill set and confidence in yourself. You have enough people that already know what you're doing. You already have a track record and case study. If you wanted to, you can do this. And by this, meaning you open up your own agency. And I always wanted to have my own business and my own company. I just didn't know what it would look like. I thought it'd be a restaurant like my folks did. But I ended up, going for it, and I haven't looked back.
I love that. So let's kind of get into the remaining of the time. Let's get into a little bit of, I think if we can create some value for, especially on the real estate side of things and the mortgage side of things. If there, I know a mortgage loan officer, and he has his office in a broker's office, in a real estate office, and he just buys donuts for the real estate guys all the time. And I think kind of like what you said, it's just kind of hanging out with the real estate guys. What is the shift in digital marketing? And I know a lot of people may be running a Facebook ad here or there, some Google AdWords or whatever, but especially now when we look at, COVID and everything that's going on, what is the shift right now that you're seeing that unless you don't do this, your time's limited?
Well, the major shift that happened to all of us starting last March, when the pandemic kind of like hit, right? And we're like, okay, this is going to be the real deal. We just don't know how long it's going to be, and it's still here, right? Is people started realizing that they're not leveraged with social media and digital marketing, and not only social media, digital marketing, also technology like Zooms and automation. People don't have a leads problem. I work with a lot of realtors. We have a lot of clients, and then I do a lot of consulting and just give free advice. And I love doing boot camps. And I just love teaching and sharing. Most people that come to us, they think they have a leads problem, or they think they have a Facebook ads problem or a Google AdWords problem. They really don't. When I do my audits, what I realize almost 100% of the time, and I'm not even exaggerating, is they don't have a system or a methodology. That's the problem, right? Like leads is not going to solve anyone's problem if they don't have the automation in place to follow up with the leads for the long haul. Leads is not going to solve anyone's problems if they don't have a target audience that they want to focus on, because the message is going to get the attention of a first-time buyer that's a veteran is a very different message that's going to get the attention of an investor or a flipper or a luxury buyer or a doctor, right? So a lot of realtors and mortgage professionals as well, they feel like, well, my service is I do loans. My service is I help people buy and sell real estate. And that's it. And then they try to like shotgun approach and then blast that out to everybody. But what they don't realize is they just commoditize themselves and they put themselves in a bucket where here in Colorado, for example, there's 20,000 realtors. In San Diego, there's more than that licensed that do the same thing. So the reality is most people don't look at social media, digital marketing, first off, as a long-term play. I tell everybody, listen, social media and digital marketing is a long-term play. If you want to try to get an ROI off running ads on Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube and getting yourself out there, first of all, it's a long-term play. You cannot expect an ROI in 60 to 90 days. Can you get lucky and get a couple deals within the first 90 days? Yes. But if you want to have this as a complement to your offline business, because that's what really online marketing is and should be a complement to an offline business, not a replacement. Unless you have a big budget and you want to spend a lot of money to compete with Quicken Loans and Cash Call and Loan Depot and Zillow, which most don't, then it has to complement your offline business. So the first thing I see that people get wrong is they don't have everything systematized and have their own methodology or system in place, because the system is the most important thing. Facebook ads is the least of people's concerns. I have young 20-year-olds that run 500 Facebook ads a week across the board for our clients. It's a skill set that anybody can learn. That's 5% of the equation. The other 90% is the system and the methodology, and the other 5% is the automation and technology. When you connect that, then you could put together a nice blueprint. So I could go on and on because this is my happy space. So, sorry, Jason, I don't want to just keep
No,
talking, but
I love this. I think one of the things, Alex, but I hear this, and whether it's real estate, mortgage, whatever it may be, automotive industry, I know this is really big.
yeah,
Everybody always talks about we need more leads. I mean, if you go to any sales manager, you go talk to any C-suite, and it's sales. They're always saying we don't have enough leads. I
yeah.
mean, that's and you're saying from what I'm hearing for you're saying yeah, it's not the leads, and it's the processes, the automation, and how you customize it to speak to each person individually.
Yeah, and let's go just a little bit deeper. So listen, people buying houses and selling houses and people refinancing and taking out loans are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. There's transactions happening multiple times a day in any market, every day, everywhere. You just need to get your message in front of the right people. So more leads doesn't necessarily solve the problem if you don't have things in place to be able to facilitate the follow-up, the automation, the retargeting. If you don't have that in place, more leads doesn't do anything but bottleneck the funnel. If you have everything in place properly, more leads helps fill up the funnel on the top, which ultimately gets people in the middle to retarget and nurture, which ultimately gets the real people at the bottom to identify themselves as prospects. So when I say that people don't have a leads problem, what I'm really trying to say is most people have a lot right in front of them. There's a book that was written like 100 years ago called Acres of Diamond, right? You heard of that, yes? It's a great read. If you guys just Google Acres of Diamond, I think by Russell Cronin or something, it's a great read, very fast, but it talks about how we have everything really that we need right in front of us. Most of us do. Any realtor in any market has plenty of opportunities right in front of them if they just knew how to put their message in front of the right people. So it starts with identifying your target audience. It's very simple stuff in my world, but a lot of people really don't understand. You have to have an avatar. You can have more than one avatar. We call them avatars in the marketing world, but basically all it is a target audience. Do you want to work with buyers or sellers? Pick a lane. Once you pick a lane, then you got to go a little bit deeper. If you pick buyers, okay, is it a first-time buyer? Is it a flipper? Is it a for sale by owner? Right? You got to go deep, 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 deep. Once you go deep and pull the layers of the onion, then you identify the message that's going to get their attention. Once you identify the message you're going to get their attention, then you put some positioning assets together. Most people I talk to don't have any kind of lead magnet, digital guide, FAQ library, webinar, anything. They don't even have any congruency on their social media platforms. One channel art on LinkedIn looks different than the channel art on YouTube, than the channel art on Facebook. They don't have an email broadcast going out, a simple email every week. If all you did was send out an email every single week to your database for the rest of the year for 52 weeks straight, that alone will get you more business. But most people don't do it. If all you did was put out a video tip of the week every single week for the rest of the year, you would get more business. The average realtor in America does one video a year. Grant Cardone used to say, I used to laugh at this, but it's very true. He goes, you want a 52 times advantage over your competition? Put out a video tip every week, he said, because everybody else is doing it once a year, right? There's certain things, simple things that if you did every single week would have exponential growth in your business. I'm not talking about running ads. I'm talking about just simple things. Put out a blog article, put out a video tip, right? Send out an email broadcast. Make sure your social media platforms are congruent. Make sure your message is congruent. What do you do for a living? If you say I'm a real estate professional, I help buyers and sellers, you just commoditize yourself. You got to go a little bit deeper. Good friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Bruce Lunn, he owns a good company. He's a business coach, has something he calls the opportunity statement. It's a better version of what people call the unique selling proposition. You have to define what you do. Before I tell you what I do, let me tell you what I believe. And because of what I believe, this is how I do things differently. Right? So you have to differentiate yourself. You have to put yourself in a blue ocean, especially on the mortgage and real estate side where it's very commoditized. There's so many mortgage and real estate professionals out there. Anything you could do to put yourself in a blue ocean compared to a red ocean, you need to do it. You need to become distinctive. My old mentor and coach used to tell me, become distinctive, separate yourself from the competition. I know I'm going a little bit off topic here. We're talking about digital marketing, but it all plays together, right? How you brand yourself, your social media awareness, your consistency with posting, all that stuff helps everything else. People don't understand Facebook and Google is all algorithms and data. and you can manipulate the algorithms to be in your favor if you know how to be on Facebook's side or on Google's side. Facebook is just a platform. It's not just, it's a huge platform that has humongous activity. But if you play by their rules, Facebook will reward you with lower cost per leads, lower cost per clicks, better quality opportunities. People on Facebook are just socializing. They're not looking for a realtor or loan officer. They're socializing. So when you run an ad, whether it's organic or paid, whether it's like an organic post or a paid ad, you're interrupting and disturbing their experience. So we have to understand that that's how the game is and play by the rules that Facebook gives us and warm people up. Bring them into our world, warm them up, give them value, educate them, lead with content. You can never go wrong when you lead with content. Never, ever. You control your own narrative when you put out good content. So lead with content, retarget. We like to run our ads when we're generating leads for our clients on Google first, not on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook and Instagram has a lot of what we call window shoppers. Right. They're not buying or selling anytime soon. They might never buy or sell. So what we do instead is we know where the real buyers and sellers are. They're on Google and YouTube because they're searching. Google's the number one search engine in the world, owns YouTube, and YouTube's the number two search engine on the world. So people type in searching if they want to watch a video, if they want to look at different areas on Google. That data is gold for a marketer. That data is gold for a realtor or a loan officer. If they know how to identify the data and the keywords, then they can reverse engineer everything and put good ads in front of people on Google and then retarget them on Facebook and Instagram. So we flip the script. You go first at the top of the funnel on Google and YouTube. Then in the middle of the funnel, you go Facebook and Instagram. Then in the bottom of the funnel, where you want to convert the quality people into conversations, you use automation and technology. That's the formula that we use in the middle of what we call the automation sales machine. So again, Jason, this is my happy space, brother. So I could talk about this for a long time. So cut me off.
I'm learning so much, Alex. So let's start with, I want to go back because you said something I think is interesting, and I want to hit two things. For some time, I want to make sure that everyone understands this. I think first we'll hit branding, and then I want to go back to why you said Google first. So let's go into branding. And I know from the very start when you learned about branding and being real specific, especially when niches, because you're like, we're going to target veterans in Hawaii and San Diego, Virginia, and this is who we're going to focus on. So it was ultra specific. What are you seeing when you look at especially these real estate professionals, mortgage professionals? Are they not branding themselves right? Because I want to start there because I know this is going to help a lot of business leaders with branding.
Yeah, you're 100% accurate. They are not branding themselves correctly. They're expecting or depending on their brokerage to do the heavy branding for them. And yes, most brokerages, big brokerages, small brokerages, they do a good amount of branding. But the reality is people aren't using a professional realtor for the brokerage they're with. Maybe in some small instances that might be accurate, but most of the time, people do business with people they like, trust, and respect. It's as simple as that. So branding allows everybody to have a piece of the market without having to spend a lot of money like these big companies like Amazon, Coca-Cola, McDonald's that have hundreds of millions of dollars a year of advertising budgets that we cannot compete with on this smaller scale platform. And we do not need to compete with it today. Today, more than ever, your message matters. And today, more than ever, your message needs to be very unique to you, right? The more authentic I am over time, the better results I've been getting. In the beginning, I used to think I want to be liked and I want to be like everybody else and I want to do what everybody else is doing because I think that's what needs to happen. I want to follow whoever's doing this. I'm going to do that. When I started realizing that, you know what, I got a lot to offer from all the mistakes I made, all the successes I've had. I'm just going to share my stories. And I've evolved, right? That's how all of us need to be. So branding allows you to have a message. The message you have, which is your narrative, allows you to put out content. When you can put out content consistently, you can never go wrong as long as the content is relevant to your audience. And I always recommend lead with education, give value. I give so much away that my coach says, why do you give so much away? I'm like, because I can. Because I've being given so many opportunities from other people that give me their information. And I've used it to grow and scale and do better for myself. Why not? I'm not going to give other people opportunity. It comes back like a boomerang. So don't worry about it if you're giving away your best of the best. Give your way best of the best. Give away all the information you have. People don't trust politicians anymore like they used to. They don't trust banks and the media. I mean, we've seen what's happening in the last year with everything that's going on with the politics and the riots and the pandemic and everything. People are confused. The more confused people are, the less they do anything. They just pause. So when you give them a good message and it's authentic and it's real, and obviously you got to know your craft, you got to know your market, you got to know what you're talking about, people want to follow that. People want to follow people that have good energy and are positive and have a good message. So branding allows you, and forget about the data. I'm not even talking about, but behind the scenes, how much data you have access to, and you could put out a good video, and now you have data on who watched how long of the video. If they watch 15 seconds or 25%, you can retarget. Video views right now are under a penny. I mean, in my marketing world, I look at KPIs all day long. That's why I love this industry that I'm in, because it's all about data. It's not emotional. The data dictates to me what I need to do next. And there's nothing better than putting out good content consistently and be able to retarget the data based on actions and behaviors they take on your material. So branding allows you to differentiate yourself. Branding allows you to put out a message. Branding allows you to attract people into your ecosystem through different types of campaigns, whether it's organic posts on social media or on LinkedIn or ads on Facebook and Instagram or ads on Google and YouTube. It allows you to bring everybody into your world. And then if you have a system, I call mine the automation sales machine, but if you have a system in place that could get somebody from checking you out on a post to opting in to get a digital guide to then receiving an email series of like an FAQ library and then a webinar to all of a sudden now interested in buying a house, and now you're the person they're reaching out to because of all the value you gave them in the last 6 months or 6 weeks. That's what branding does, right? We're not trying to brand ourselves like Coca-Cola or McDonald's. We're trying to brand ourselves in a demographic for realtors, typically a 15, 20-mile radius demographic of where they live or where they work. For loan offers, typically the city or the state, because typically you're licensed in the state. But when you could brand yourself in that area, in that arena, to your past clients, to potential new clients, to referral partners, it changes the whole game. It changes the whole game. And now when you run ads, they can work a little bit better. And then when you test, you can realize what ads don't work and then run ads that do work more often. The problem with people with ads, they give up too soon. People come to me and they complain about Facebook. I'm like, why are you coming to me then if you're complaining about Facebook? You think I'm going to change everything? They're like, no, I just think there's a better way. I'm like, well, how long are you running Facebook ads? 2 months. Okay, 2 months. Yeah, I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Facebook's a long-term game. You only get rewarded in the long haul. It's like if you're a realtor, and most realtors here that are listening could probably relate to this. If you're a realtor and you decide you want to physically farm an area of 500 homes that you live in, and you're like, this is my farm. I'm going to physically farm this demographic of 500 homes. I'm going to send out a postcard once a month. I'm going to door knock on weekends. I'm going to put some flyers in the fruit markets or the farms or the shopping stores nearby. And I'm going to do this. If you think you're going to get an ROI within 2 months off that effort, you're mistaken. It's going to take you about 12 months to 16 months. Anybody who's done this and it's seasoned can agree to this. When you physically farm an area, you need at least 12 to 16 months of exposure to get an ROI. But after that 12 or 16 months of exposure, you have exponential growth. It's the same thing as online. Same thing as online. The longer you're doing it, the more consistent you are, the more data you have, the better quality data you get over time. Exponential growth comes over time. So back to your question on branding. Branding is a pivotal part of the equation, in my opinion, to differentiate yourself and build a better audience and a better following. And then as long as you're nurturing and you're staying top of mind and you're retargeting, eventually you'll get a piece of the business.
Yeah, I've always been interested in real estate professionals because it's always cookie cutter. It's always the same. They've always got cheap suits on, and they're always driving 100,000-mile BMWs. They're always pretending like they make 500,000 a year. When they make 50,000, and it's just And it seems like every time I'm on Instagram or whatever, it seems the same thing. And I'm like, if somebody had a genuine message and they're like, I only sold 3 houses. Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm young. I'm working for this. And then show a video of them going to go talk to a client and how that went. I mean, to me, I would actually be interested in someone like that, that's genuine.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's what I see. It just seems like there's so much cheesiness and fake, especially on the real estate side.
The problem, I think, on the real estate side is that they're always going for the next shining object. They're always going to the next best thing. They get solicited so much, unfortunately, their industry, that most of them fall for every solicitation that comes their way. And it's not that the training is not there, right? There's a lot of training that's involved in all kinds of real estate brokerages. Good training too, but the training they give people, it's more theory. It's more like, I don't know, stuff that you could take to pass a test. The reality is they don't teach even the basics of digital marketing and social media. I'm not saying I have all the answers by any means, but what I built, which is the foundation, I think, of any business, to build like an automation machine of, what you need to do. They don't teach that in the way that they should teach it. And they need to be more current, in my opinion, because social media digital marketing is always evolving and changing. What we're talking about today probably is not going to be as relevant today as 2-3 months from now. It's going to change again, right? Because we always have to understand the market's always moving, the market's always changing. These platforms are always adjusting. Facebook's always making changes. Google's always making changes. The thing is this: you cannot rely on any of these platforms. I've learned this the hard way, and I try to share this with everybody. Don't rely on any one platform. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. I used to have all my eggs in Facebook when I first started the agency, and I realized a couple of years later, about a year and a half ago, that I cannot have all my eggs in one basket. So I ventured off into Google and YouTube and LinkedIn, and it's been the best thing we've ever done. But I realize now more than ever, the 2 best assets you have as a real estate and mortgage professionals, in my opinion, is your database and your content. Nobody can ever take away your database. I don't care if you leave the brokerage. Hopefully you all are smart and you have your data in your own CRM, not a proprietary CRM that your broker owns or the mortgage company owns. If they have proprietary CRMs, that's great, but make sure your data also goes into your own CRM. It could be MailChimp, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be ActiveCampaign, it doesn't matter, but make sure your data is yours, because nobody could take away your data. And then in addition to that, your content, right? Your narrative, your story. Nobody could ever take away your story. As long as it's authentic and it's real and you're not faking the funk, you're not trying to be somebody that you're not, right? Just be comfortable with who you are. Doesn't matter if 80% of the planet can't stand you. There's another 20% that probably loves you. It doesn't matter. Not everyone's going to like you, right? I realized that growing up. Not everyone's going to like me, and it's okay. There's a lot of people that do love me, and I'm cool, right? As long as my wife and my children are taken care of, my business partners, my investors, my clients, my close friends is all I care about, and then just make a difference, right? Your content, your narrative, your database, that's all you can control. Everything else, you just got to use it for what it is. All these platforms, use them for what they are. Access to a lot of people, right? The data that you get from these platforms, use it for what they are, to retarget and run better ads to the right people, right? Technology and automation, use it for what it is, to convert leads into conversations via text, right? Text is where it's at right now. Text has a 100% delivery rate if the cell phone is accurate, almost a 70% response rate. Instead of cold calling people, especially leads, text them. Get a positive engagement. Get a positive response. Hey, thanks for checking in on Facebook. Hey, thanks for checking in on Instagram. Hey, thanks for opting in here. Just want to make sure that you want more information here. I don't want to bombard you. Oh, yes, I'm very interested in learning more about this. Great. Check your email inbox for what I just sent you. Let me know if you want to jump on a call. Then go proactively, aggressively into setting up a call, right? You got to have all these things in motion. If you do that consistently every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, you should be able to scale your business 20, 30, 40, even double your business every year. My old mentor used to tell me, double your business every year, Alex. He goes, double it every year. Right? So anyways.
I love that. Like, Alex, I could listen to you for hours. I know our time is coming up. I want to make sure that everyone, if they're in the mortgage or real estate professional, and they want to become a better marketeer, how would they get a hold of I know they could go on your website, but do you have like a schedule a demo? Do you have, where they can text you? What's the best way for them to be able to get a hold of you guys?
So thank you. First of all, thank you for your time, Jason. I know I spoke a lot, but I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come and share my insight to your audience. I hope somebody got some value from this. But what I think is more important for people, instead of trying to schedule a demo with me, not that I'm against that, is I want you guys to experience what a real funnel looks like, right? Because if you can experience what this looks like, you could then maybe try to either duplicate this yourself, or with our help or another agency's help, duplicate this for yourself in your own business. So what I recommend you guys do is, and again, I don't like sending people to my website, but I'm going to send you to my website with one call to action. That's all I'm asking you guys to do. Go to my website. It's bsmvault.com, B as in boy, S as in Sam, M as in Mary, BSM Vault, VAULT.com. And right there on top the fold, there's a bottom of the fold, there's top the fold. You'll know what I'm talking about. Before you have to scroll down, the first thing you're going to see next to my face is a Learn More tab right in the middle of the homepage. Click that Learn More tab and then opt in to this digital guide I'm going to give you for free. There's no obligation. I'm not selling you anything here. But what I want you to experience is what a real funnel looks like. You're going to opt in and then just experience what's going to happen to you next. And why I'm asking you guys to do this, not to try to get you guys into my database, even though that's going to happen. I want you guys to experience what you should all be doing for your target audience. Get them into your ecosystem by giving them something of value. And then what happens afterward is the most important thing. You're going to see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to ruin this for you guys. I'm going to let you guys experience it yourself. Do that. That'll be way more rewarding than you guys trying to get into my schedule for a demo. Now, afterwards, you want to get into my calendar. All my information is there to get into my calendar. I would love to do a demo for everybody that needs a demo. But I think what's more important is learn, understand, and apply what I've just talked to you about today. And the first thing you do is understand what a real funnel looks like, because you're all one funnel away from literally scaling your business. I promise you that. I was told that years ago. I didn't believe it. I thought it was a marketing gimmick. Literally, it was one of the best things I was ever told. You're one funnel away from literally scaling and growing your business. And it's the same for all you guys listening today.
No, I love that, Alex. I literally am on your website right now, and I clicked on the so it's like right, like you said, right next to your picture, it's Learn More button. I clicked on that, and then right to dominate your market.
Yeah, just download that digital guide, and it begins the funnel. The funnel's already begun because the page is pixeled. So you guys are going to get retargeted on Facebook, Instagram, Google anyways, but you'll see what I'm talking about when you opt in. There's an authority amplifier video. Talk about branding. There's an authority amplifier video. You'll know what I'm talking about when you go through the process. There's a follow-up series of videos. There's directions. There's things that happen strategically set up in a way where the experience and the process ends up, if it's a qualified, motivated prospect that fits what you're offering, ends up in your calendar. That's ultimately what I'm trying to share with you guys.
I just love this that you're you were teaching all this to us, and then now you're like, let me show you how it works, and it's in practice, and I use it in my business. I'm not just teaching or being a guru, but I live up to what I'm saying, and so you're offering that challenge to others.
I'm in the trenches, Jason. I'm in the trenches, man. My hands are dirty every day, brother. I'm not anywhere close to retiring, man. One day maybe I'll be speaking like the old gurus do today, but I'm not, knock on wood, man. I got about 20 years before I do that. I'm in the trenches just like everybody else, man.
Well, that's so cool. Everybody go to bsmvault.com. And thanks, Alex. I appreciate you being on the ABQ Business Podcast.
You got it, Jason. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.